Welcome back. My 37 female husband 38 and I have been married for a significant period of time and have a 5-year-old son together. Our marriage has always had issues, mostly stemming from the fact that he works a lot. He's gone for at least 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I've always felt like I'm raising my child on my own, which has led to a lot of resentment and issues throughout our marriage. Whenever I've brought up the fact that he could always work a bit less, his reply is that he will. If I picked up the financial burden and picked up a job that actually pays instead of my part-time job. It's a long story why I cannot do a full-time job, and I'm not going to go into details here. But I'm just leaving this backstory here so you can have a clear picture into our marriage before rushing into placing full blame on me. So this brings me to my part-time job. I do a bookkeeping thing at the town library. My work hours are flexible, and usually I do 3-hour shifts for 3 days a week on weekdays while my son's at the nursery. The pay is basic, but I like the fact that it gives me some sort of independence. Recently, there's been a new hire, a 20-something attractive man. The librarian, who's a 40-something unmarried woman, and the rest of the female crew have been all over him, as he's the only good-looking male working in the library. But it was me that he started giving attention to. I think I caught his eyes from the first day, and we started bonding over small talks and lunch in the break room. He made me feel desired, feminine, and acknowledged. Everything that my husband was not making me feel any longer. It was exhilarating and made me feel more confident, especially considering his youth and attractiveness. Long story short, we soon started an affair, emotional and physical. I started working more days and more hours at work gradually. I would put my son in nursery and would head over to the library. We'd hang out together at every chance and later started meeting outside because we were raising few eyebrows at work. One day, it all came to an end because my husband had come to the library looking for me. He had never once done that before, and my guess is he had had a hunch. I had told my husband that I'd be going to work earlier that morning, but in truth, I went to my coworker's place to have sex. I had no idea that my husband had come looking for me, and after we were done having sex, I collected my son and went home as usual. My husband came home in the evening and inquired of my work that day. And me not knowing he had been to my work, launched into a ridiculous spiel. He waited till I finished and flatly told me he was over at my work that day. One look at my husband and a wave of negative emotions overwhelmed me. I felt guilt and remorse for hurting him, imagining how heartbroken I would be if he did the same with another woman. I broke down and confessed to my shameless affair. At first he was calm, but then he became angry, called me names, and asked questions, some of which I answered, such as why and how long, while others were inappropriate and I didn't feel comfortable answering. Through my tears, I expressed my willingness to work on our marriage and do everything I could to regain his trust. But he just sat there unmoving. That night, I slept on the couch, feeling extremely vulnerable. The next day, he said he wanted me out of the house. He said I was repulsive, and I needed to leave and let him and our child be. I moved out the next day to my parents' basement, and my parents have been horrified at what I've done. I've heard from my mother-in-law, who pretty much called me all the derogatory names under the sun. I have no clue what I should be doing at the moment. I miss my child, I miss my home, and I miss my husband. I want nothing more than just my old life back. I don't blame him for his feelings, and I never intended to hurt him, as strange as it may sound. The affair was something I needed for myself. However, I'm beginning to feel resentful again from what my mother-in-law said. He's preparing to end the marriage, and it seems both our families are on his side too. I do not know how I'm going to fare in a divorce. My coworkers will obviously not be kind when they hear either, and I dread facing the public scrutiny. Edit. If you want to behave in an immature manner, please refrain from commenting on posts where individuals seek relationship advice from mature adults. Story 2. Me and my ex met in high school, had our one and only daughter after college, and got married a year later. Things were going great for years. As time went on, it got stale. Dead bedroom situation, daughter away to college. A bunch of normal marriage stuff that I decided to burn with my selfishness. I started an affair with a man that went to my gym. It started as flirting, then he gave me his number, which turned to sexting, then meeting up and turning it physical. It got bad. I'd have him over if my husband was working late or go to his place and tell my husband I was at work. A year into it, my daughter graduated from college and moved back home. I forgot exactly how she found out, but she confronted me about possibly cheating on her dad. I tried to lie, but it wasn't working. And I told her a sob story about how I was unhappy, which wasn't even true, and that I loved her father, but I also loved my AP, and this way I can be happy and her father can be happy. The sob story worked, and she agreed to keep it secret. Her only condition was that I couldn't bring him into the house, so I would always go with him to his place. Well, one day, my ex went through my phone while I was asleep and saw everything. All of my conversations and pictures with ex-AP. He saw when I told AP that my daughter was keeping the secret, which led him to read the text with my daughter and saw a conversation when she said, "I just want you to be happy." I noticed something was up for the next week or so because he didn't really talk to my daughter and I besides monotone yeses, nos, or I don't cares. This really affected my daughter because they were very close, and she started panicking that he knew. Well, one day, me and my daughter were watching TV and he came home and slapped papers in front of me and said he wanted a divorce. He said he knew about my affair and told me the name of AP. I asked our daughter to leave the room and he said, "No, she can hear this too. After all, she wants you to be happy, right?" My daughter and I started having a breakdown and begging him to forgive us. He yelled that he wanted to divorce and that the quicker I signed, he can get out of our lives, since I obviously didn't love him, and that he obviously wasn't a good enough father to our daughter for her to do this. Then he left. It took about 9 months for the divorce to go through. I begged and begged him to reconcile, or at least forgive our daughter, but he was adamant that he wanted nothing to do with us. Since then, neither me nor my daughter have heard from nor seen him. She tried to text and call him, but he ignores her. Our relationship has also deteriorated. She went through a deep depression and we've had some explosive arguments. She's told me that she regrets ever covering for me, that she should have told her dad as soon as she found out. She's called me every name in the book and said I was the worst mother ever and that I ruined her life. I got the house, as it was my parents' house previously. She moved out with her friends and only contacts me if she needs something, and only comes over if she needs to get something, then immediately leaves. I've ruined everything. I have no one. It's been 3 years. I miss my ex so much, but 1, he hates me. 2, he's remarried and they adopted a baby, so that'll never happen. From what I know, he still doesn't talk to our daughter. Is there anything I can say to him to get him to speak to her? Is there anything I can do to repair my relationship with my daughter? Is everything totally destroyed? I'm lost. 1, your actions were self-centered and driven by your own needs without considering the consequences. 2, instead of taking responsibility and confessing to your wrongdoing, you resorted to emotionally manipulating your daughter. This has deeply impacted her understanding of what a healthy relationship looks like. 3, holding on to the belief that your ex or your daughter will reconcile is an illusion. While there might be a possibility of healing in the future, you should not be involved in that process. It's crucial for you to accept accountability for your actions, focus on personal growth, and seek therapy. Understanding the underlying reasons behind your behavior is essential. Prioritize fixing yourself before attempting to address any other issues. I wish you the best of luck. Comments. You are a failure by every available metric. Normally, I try not to hop on the bandwagon and prefer to think for myself. But goddamn, you are a degenerate. Your parents failed at raising a good daughter and instilling morals in you. You failed as a wife. You failed as a mother. You encouraged your daughter to lie to her father. You failed to do the one thing you could have done to make it easier on your ex, which is signing the papers. You are an abject failure. Leave the poor bastard alone so he can forget about his biggest failure, marrying you. Try to move on with your own life if you can. Find someone who can accept you for who you are, a failure and a cheat. Cheaters are scum, and they deserve to be with only other cheaters so they can continually hurt only fellow cheaters and not innocent partners. Sadly, actions have consequences. And if those actions are never caught, well, you win. But if they're found out, well, face the piper. Being a father, I feel for your daughter. But if you taught her right from wrong, she should have known. But she made the wrong choice and now faces the consequences. You should have just let the husband, but I'm sure that was not enough excitement or the lifestyle you had would have been impacted, so you cheated.